Hi
Good evening.
everyone.
Good evening.
Hello,
Hi.
guys.
Hello.
Is this thing on?
Yes,
Good
we can
evening,
hear you.
everyone. It is Sunday, October 24. It is another Sunday, which means that it's time for Sunday Night Magic.
Sunday Night Magic.
Yes, and tonight is going to be an interesting episode. So, actually, I wasn't supposed to be here for tonight's episode. Just made it right in the last minute. But you know what?
Yes.
Tonight is Ron's episode, and Ron has something specific that he'd like to discuss tonight. But first and foremost, we do have another guest joining us, returning for another episode of Sunday Night Magic. Sir Freddy, welcome.
Welcome, Sir
Hello, good
Fred.
evening, guys.
Good
Happy to
evening.
be here.
Yes, I know.
And
We're
I
happy to
also
have you and the legions of followers of your F that channel.
Wala nga followers eh. Medyo dormant na yung channel na yun for what? Maybe more than a month?
that means that the society is not as bad. Is that how it works? Is that our litmus test?
Maybe
So-
maybe it'll get active again in the coming months as we move towards 2022.
Okay.
Ano eh,
That is
most
true.
of the issues have been political kasi. And
Mm.
I try to avoid uh, anything too political. Mas
Right.
gusto ko yung mga general topics.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, today we'll be talking about kind of a favorite topic of mine since the time I discovered it. And to the ones who do know, I'm Ron. I am a game designer, and I oh, hi, there are people.
Yeah, we got viewers. Awesome.
So Chum says, "How's the move, Hammy? What's behind door number 2?"
Yeah, if you
Okay.
pick the wrong door, you'll die.
Yeah.
The one is in the for the incinerator, and
One is for combo players and the other one is for those people.
okay, fair enough, fair enough. And we also have Milo. Hi, good evening. All right, so
Hey, good evening.
Sir Freddy, should we tell them about your surprise or
Yeah.
is that-
So for tonight, we're gonna have the specific topic nga dahil dun sa ano. So, there's gonna be like types of players, and as we discuss, we'd like you guys to join in sa comment section, and anybody who comments on what type of player they are and explains why they are that type of player, like maybe explain it with an incident or what types of decks they play, or what type of events they want to join. Uh, we're gonna put you in a raffle, and then si Ron na rin bahala doon. Siya yung
Okay.
magra-randomize at the end of the stream.
Okay.
Uh,
Wheel of names.
Okay.
yes.
Gotcha.
And then
Gotcha.
the three of us, we're gonna pick one. So there's three na randomly bibigyan natin ng booster packs. And then one
Ooh.
more, napipiliin namin yung either pinakang convincing or pinakang entertaining na reason. So the three of us have to
Ooh.
agree.
That's
Okay.
So
okay.
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 yun, kailangan
I am down for that.
unanimous.
All right.
Okay?
Javi,
So
I have a
tatlong
suggestion.
random and
Okay.
one na ano to, panelist choice. Okay?
Nice. Nice. And Javi, I realized you should do this more often. Bring in Sir Freddy more often.
Yeah, I know. I want him on the show more often, but since I am talking a lot about, let's say, like Commander or Secret Layer and stuff, I know that these are not necessarily like Sir Freddy's, like forte. But you know what? If
Which
there
is
are specific topics you want to discuss, I am all game to have you on board, man.
which is actually a big part of the topic we're going to be talking about today, which is gamer motivations. That's the topic that I have been discussing for quite some years now, and it connects to everything. Basically, why are you playing the games you are playing? And sometimes people, oh, it's because I can escape it. It's my form of escape, or it's what I'm interested in. And it's interesting if you can figure out like the terms of why you do play those games, especially for Magic. uh it doesn't escape this. Apparently, all of these psychographic um analysis on how
Mhm.
players think and how they are motivated, it also translates to Magic. But before we go to Magic itself, so let me just share my screen.
All right, there we have presentation.
Hang on. Should I? Can I? Slideshow, slideshow, slideshow. And can I still share that?
The-
Okay, I can still share.
I really like this topic because this answers the why.
Yes.
This
So
answers why people play games.
yes. What's always been, sometimes it's difficult to articulate why you play the games you like playing,
Mhm.
uh, and through the research I've done over the years, mainly coming from Quantric Foundry. I think we did a few episodes also in Variable Play about this,
Hmm.
where we talked about the different motivation pillars from all different aspects, and it all comes to, as a game, Sid Meier, which is one of the sort of greatest designers, uh, always said that a game is a series of interesting choices. And Magic is all about that. Every
Oh yeah.
turn, every card you play, every card draw that happens, each one, from the land drop alone, like which land are you gonna play this round? What cards are you keeping? Just from opening, just the game starts, you shuffle, you open your hand, and you already have to make a lot of interesting decisions. And that's why Magic has stood the test of time, because there's so many things about it that keeps it very interesting. So we have a lot of comments. I'm going to pull those
Yeah.
up
A
first.
lot. See, I told you, Sir Freddy has a pretty big
Yes.
following.
All right.
Thank you to all of you for joining tonight's show.
So William says, "Hello, sir. This
Oh,
is
hi.
great. Glad
Hi.
to have this kind of thing in the tabletop community
Yes.
going." So
Hi, BJ.
this is
Musta?
BJ. Hi, BJ
Okay. This
and
is this
Chino.
is tagging people.
Oh, okay, okay, gotcha,
These
gotcha.
are
This is
these are
like pulling
tags
in
for
people.
sure.
Guys, join in. And shout out Sir Freddy. Thomas
Thomas na lang daw
regalo
kulang.
na lang kulang, maandar na.
You
And
know what?
Gory Gory
Actually,
Gaming.
I've never asked. Does Thomas play Magic?
Yes,
He
I
does,
think
right?
I think most gamers really
Yeah,
Yeah.
started
I
with
think he
Magic.
made
Most
prototype cards using Magic cards, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he also started playing around with game design, also coming in from a Magic perspective initially. I think a lot of us, especially in the Philippines, we started with that as our entry point is sort of into core gaming, and then that's when we branched out. And I can also tap a little bit into that, um, as to why your tastes may change over the years. It also comes in, and it's also a big part of why you play the games you play. All right, so let me move. Okay, so I'm gonna go straight in because we're gonna have to sort of jump in back and forth from this to uh, the magic profiles. All right, so Contract Foundry, after 300,000 uh, uh, survey results, so they already were able to amass a really large, significant number of and very diverse content, and they were able to sort of using sort of heat maps. They were able to cluster motivations from players, and they were able to start naming those clusters into these 12 main motivations. So, and you can think of those 12 as sort of six core pillars. You have action, boom. So anything that has destruction in it, chaotic, mayhem, uh, and it's also related to games that are exciting, very fast paced. If you're interested in Dota, for example, that's something very action oriented. Call of Duty, something like that. Then beside that, you have social. So this is all about competition. This is actually a key driver in a lot of the Magic players as well. So dueling, going into matches, but notice that competition is very related to community. So it's also in the same pillar. So that doesn't mean that when you're computing your enemies, you're competing your enemies in competition. Community is also a very strong component. Why people play the games that they play, they also like the community that they're playing in. And then you have the mastery pillar, which is all about the challenge. Practice makes perfect. Trying to achieve higher difficulty, overcome the challenges, and of course, in mastery, you're more motivated about strategy, thinking ahead. A few building up your steps in, baiting your opponent, things like that, and making really tough decisions. Then you have achievement. Basically, I just want more cards,
Yeah,
more
this is
stuff.
this is the pure completionist.
Complete, exactly. So you have
Yeah.
completionist, but you're also talking about your strength, your power.
Yes,
As you achieve more, as you're able to
min
gain
max.
ranking or gain your bling for your character, you're also very interested, and that's also a big part of the achievement. Immersion, you are or very much interested into the fantasy, the theme, the story, the world that you can play in. And again, Magic has this in abounds, and that's why Magic is encompassing all of these. Um, uh,
Well, they actually came up with a very smart idea, but it's not an original idea, but the
well,
concept of the multiverse, that
exactly,
at any particular time that they can just build a new story and a new setting and that they can take you there.
correct.
So
Yes,
if one experience doesn't work for you, that it is what you wait 3 months and there's probably another world to visit.
and a totally new, different experience. And they started with just one sort of universe, multiverse of
Right, the
sorts.
but
You know,
funny enough, the very first universe that Magic had was technically on Earth. The fact
oh,
that
really?
the
Cool.
APAC lands exist and that
Right.
some of the flavor text reference like real literature, that there
Mm.
was a little bit of like the real world connected to Magic in flavor for a while, but
Yeah.
they did
Well,
have to correct that.
we are part of the multiverse, aren't we?
In a
Earth.
way,
What?
yes,
Which number?
616.
There you go.
Yeah, yung mga early sets, 'di ba? They had flavor text from Shakespeare and
Right.
yun real world stuff. And
Yes.
yun mga ibang references were actually real life references that in this day and age are probably not politically correct anymore.
Oh,
That's true.
yeah, that's right.
That's true.
Several cards are essentially banned. Like not like
Yeah. Yep.
not like banned from tournament play because they're not really legal cards to play anymore, but just even like using the search engine will yield no result.
They have
Mm-hmm.
been redacted and expunged from the system.
Yep.
So their immersion, it's something that some players are very much interested into. I love reading flavor text, and then of course the last column we have is creativity. So it's all about what can I do with this? What if I add this? And of course, this is now MTG's deck design core. Being able to express your ideas into something that you can construct and you then test out and you can see how it works. And of course, there's a lot of discovery, tinkering around these aspects. So these core motivators, and I'm sure when you describe
There's
yourself,
actually a seventh one that Milo brought up, but
Yep.
see at the top here that this is
And
from video gamers. So the seventh one that you mentioned, the investor motivation, is it doesn't exist in the
yes,
video
so
game
agree,
field.
agree. As a video gamer, you are playing the games you play because of that. But that is true. That
no, no,
there's
no. Ngayon sa video games, NFT gaming.
Oh
uh,
well,
Like
okay.
a
yes,
hundred percent of the people playing that are there for the money. They're
right,
not in it for the game. 'Di ba?
yes,
So meron
absolutely.
na, meron na.
Yeah,
But
actually,
in
maybe it is
essence,
time for an update to build a seven category.
for
Yeah.
me though, it
'Di ba we
is
were joking about this before we even started
yes,
streaming?
yeah, and I think they're playing a different game. So it is true that they are playing a game, whatever the game is, but
Mhm.
the math and the decisions are not revolved around that game. That game is like a given to the real game they're playing, which is investing and trying to gather enough points and resources to amass more points and resources in that game. So I think it's just another layer to the game that they are playing.
Yeah, maybe it's just an advanced version of the achievement motivator. It's like I want
Probably.
more, and
Yeah.
then in
But like
parentheses,
physically
money.
money.
Mm.
All right,
Just
that's true.
collecting
That's
money.
true.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just pick up some comments. So we have uh with BJ said, I think I can say behalf of all Pinoy
Yeah,
geeks and
this is
nerds.
played Magic. That yeah, I mean every
Yes,
Pinoy or gamer may have probably dabbled in Magic the Gathering at least
exactly,
once.
exactly. That's true. That's something very quite wide in terms of
Yeah,
um
it's a safe
w-
bet. If we
right.
encounter someone who has never tried Magic locally, that's like some kind of rare little Pokemon that you gotta hunt.
Sure, sure. And then this is what Milo mentions, which is
Yes.
what walang investor. I know, I gotcha, I gotcha. Yeah. All
Oh,
right.
here actually, there's another comment from BJ here. Even the art was actually based on real historical imagery.
Yeah.
Correct.
So yeah, this is
Yes.
towards magic in the real world, but being sort of related when it started.
Yep. Yep. And so now to sort of Ron, you just gave us some interesting motivators, but how do we know that that actually computes correctly and why are they related? And so forth. We have another comment here. Money is paper only, hence cardboard greater than paper.
Yes, it's more sheets of paper compressed
It's true.
together.
So
That's
value
better
wise,
than
it
money.
should have more value. There you go. Okay. So
Yeah, wait till they make hologram money, like foil, 100 peso bills that cost 200 for some
did
reason.
they make like a gigantic coin for like I know there's a for like 200,000 or something. I know they made like
They
a
they
big
minted a
coin.
coin like
They,
that.
yeah, they made a
Wow.
big coin. Okay, so let me just go back to how these work. And what's really interesting with it is that they are also so not only are they pillared in pairs, they
They
also
cluster.
tend to cluster together because of the motivators for those type of clusters really work well together. So if you are interested in story, you're more likely also interested in design and the fantasy and the lore about it. And when you are about the challenge, you are more likely to about the competition, and of course very strategic. But the connection between story and completion and strategy is the discovery motivator. And that line connects those two clusters. But it's still somewhere in between, and you can think of discovery as anything of those sort of like roguelike games where you just sort of explore and see what's there, as compared to uh, the so being creative and just trying to build things in uh, Minecraft, for example. Uh, Down below, you have competition, community, excitement. So as I already mentioned, they're very related, and of course, destruction. Beating your enemies in game, or also your opponents in tournaments and so forth. And of course, the connector between is power. And so the more you want to amass more power, and maybe for financial power, this could also be something that's related. So you can think of the high level clusters as action social. So if you are very action oriented, you're also somewhat related to the social. So you want the power, mastery and achievement. You want to be able to build the best thing and beat your opponents with it. And you have your immersion and creativity, which is more focused on the story, the how things work, the theme, and so forth. So there. So now that you have a better idea how that works in terms of how they're clustered, they now tested this, if it actually really works, and how everybody else in the world did or fared with this clustering. And what they realized, that it is pretty much how the rest of the world also clustered themselves. You just kind of see things. I'm not sure if you guys can see it well. Uh, let
This
me.
this is
I can
this is slowly
actually.
this is slowly looking like a colorblind test.
Sorry, I can hold on. I can full screen that. I'll. There you go. So you can look at how in
So
Southeast Asia.
let's focus on Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Just about to
So
point that out.
so in Southeast Asia, you can see excitement, competition, power, and challenge are in essence sort of forming their own cluster, but they're still in that group. Whereas you look at South America, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, they're sort of more relaxed. So we are very into, we like, achieving greater things, and that's, I guess, a very Asian trait.
I
Uh,
will point out though that strategy seems to be very far off the grid there.
mhm. Yeah, yep, yep, yep. We I guess to us we're a bit more tactical rather than long term strategy. We we like
Hmm.
our day to day warfare, just getting things done. But in
Hmm.
terms of planning out, it's not
Yeah.
necessarily more um, culturally, or at least as a region, it's not something as apparent as compared to North America. Completion strategy challenges are quite balanced. So that's where you can see how things are clustering, but they're relatively in those zones, and you can see for the rest of the world it is the same.
Yeah,
All right,
actually, Ron, there's a quick question here. If you could take a step back into just like the very first grid that you showed.
sure.
So there's a question here asking if you can explain how the matrix that you presented, the relationship of like what is would be up, down, left, right. So like how they're clustered, like what does it necessarily mean? Just to give people an understanding of how that graphical representation is supposed to be interpreted as.
Hang on. So, uh, are you guys talking about the gamer motivations? The
There,
Yeah.
yeah. So here, pretty
Yung
much to
yeah, ano
understand just
yung
how it
X
got
and Y
clustered.
axis niyan or
Okay,
whatever.
okay, all
Right.
right, sure. So, in terms of X and Y, this is not necessarily the graph. Okay, the way they design the clustering is more of uh, it's not your x and y graph
Mm-hmm.
for the cluster matrix. It's really more of like data points and where they are on
In,
how they clump
in
together.
relation to each other.
Yes. However, there is I wasn't able to show it here, where they were able to pinpoint those things. Where, for example, you can treat it like if you are very much into action and excitement, and their distance to strategy is farther than anything about tactics. And the reason why is because if you have people that is able to, sure, okay, Harold is asking
Yeah,
what
I
was the
think
data point.
I think I have the answer to that.
Go
So
ahead.
yeah, basically when gamers were told to sort of enumerate what motivates them, the way that this is plotted on screen is supposed to show you like which were the highest motivators for them, so that people who chose completion most likely also had strategy and challenge also high up. That's why like they started clustering together.
uh,
That
well, not quite. So
not
you
quite
can you
okay.
don't have to look at the graph as an x and y. Look at this as a map. So if you have a world map, which doesn't matter,
Yep.
that's the map,
Yep.
and you have, whenever you create a data. So for example, let's give you an example how the data here is created. So let's take StarCraft. So StarCraft, let's say, would be a game that's more likely in the blue zone.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Yes, an
let's take,
RTS.
right. Then let's
So
take
so you mean yung StarCraft being in the blue zone, it will attract people who are clustered around that area of motivations.
when they
Tama ba?
also took uh, Command and Conquer, for example, they noticed that they Command and Conquer players that like Command and Conquer and StarCraft, they all sort of they all who like Command and Conquer is more likely to also like StarCraft, and those are how they are being clustered. So it's not an x and y. You kind of have to look at it from a top view perspective. If you have all of the games in the world, would they attract each other and clump into groups? And that's
Mhm.
how they build
Yeah.
this
Um,
clustering.
okay. My question right now is, yung distance between the, let's say, we're looking at this, di ba? The distance
Yes.
between one motivation to the other is, this means na yung, let's say for example, ito, the one we're looking at, this means the competition motivation, if you have that as high, then chances are mataas din yung strategy mo. Ganon. Yun ba
Yeah.
yung ibig sabihin yan?
So
Yeah.
if
So,
you
and
are
kung malayo
high,
yung isa, is that means it's far from, medyo malayo yan sa how these motivations cluster.
so
Am
if you
I right?
are, for example, if you are very interested in competition, that's a
Mhm,
high uh, motivator for you.
mhm,
You might not be as interested in the story over
mhm.
competition
Dahil
because
mhm,
it's maybe it's not enough time for you to sort of dive deep into the
mhm,
story. So you are more about the excitement of it, and of course this
mhm,
is not encompassing everything. It You could be somewhat in between. That just means that your pins are a little bit nearer to each other. You, it's still the same.
yep,
Um, so that's why Discovery and Power didn't situate themselves in inside the clusters because they were really connectors between the clusters. That
mhm,
games, for example, that offered a good story but it's also about long-term strategy, there's a lot of discovery. So you have those Master of Orion, for example. where it's a lot of planning, there's a lot of discovery, you go around the space, and it's a long sort of strategic play. But players who are interested in that might not necessarily be interested in competition because it's something that's maybe too fast for them.
Right. Yeah, the way that I'm looking at this is that you don't necessarily really have to be like boxed in or clumped into one cluster. But
Of course.
let's say that if you are interested in the story of a game, you are most likely also going to be motivated by the fantasy, the lore, and the
The
design.
art, the
That's
how
right.
how
So
things look.
it's clustered together in a way that you will probably have like similar motivations. Like let's say that you are into the community, so most likely you do find the competition also as a motivator. You do like the excitement of the game because you are, playing with different people, getting to know them, and
Right.
also it's like, winning and losing.
Mhm.
While if you are more on like just gotta catch them all type situation, then yes, you're probably gonna be more on the completion side of it.
Exactly. Yes. There you go. So hopefully, Harold, we answered that question. So again, it's not an X and Y. Look at it from an above, and you have a lot of marbles of different games and how players liked a certain game or put them on their top, and the chances of other people to put them in the top. They were able to sort of eventually create clusters of how they are related because the same set of references came up, and they were now able to name those uh, clustering over the years that they've been doing this survey. All right.
Man, if I knew we were gonna get this intense, I should have had a beer.
Okay. So what was very interesting for me was the fact that um, Magic also treats its core gamer profiles to just three main pillars. So let's go skip forward to that. And Mark Rosewater said, the point of psychographic is to try to understand the psychological motivation behind why a person enjoys what they enjoy. It's not about the what, but the why. So Mark
Mhm.
Rosewater is the head designer
Yep.
and also longtime editor of MTG,
Yeah, Mr. Marrow himself.
Mr. Marrow himself. All right.
Yeah.
So he describes initially he described three uh, gamer types: Timmy and Tammy. This was updated to also include different genders. Johnny or Jenny, Spike. Apparently, this case can work for both.
Yes.
Because
Um,
Spike is a dog's name.
okay.
No,
All right.
it's an ambiguous name that it's not necessarily
Yeah.
just
It's
like
not
the
gender identified.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So let's go through Timmy. And so
Yeah,
Mark
this
Rose.
is the
So by the way,
original Timmy artwork.
before we go forward to this, dun sa mga kaka-tune in lang, eto na. So
Camera on,
in the
Ron.
comment
Show
section,
them.
if you can tell us whether you're a Timmy, Tammy, Spike, Jenny or Johnny, or some more categories that we're gonna talk about later. Tell us why you're that kind of player, and everybody who shares that, we're gonna raffle out 3 booster packs, and then so 3 random people that comment will win booster packs. Also, the funniest or the most entertaining or the most convincing one na pipiliin naming tatlo na storya will also win a booster pack. Okay?
Yes,
So
All
and
let's
right.
get on with it.
these are D&D Adventures in the Forgotten
Yep,
Realm draft
AFR.
packs. Draft packs,
Yep,
or is that
draft
set
packs, draft
draft
packs.
packs? Okay.
All right. All right. So just a quick summary. Basically, we're going to be discussing MTG profiles or MTG Magic the Gathering gamer types. It's either uh, Timmy or Tammy, Johnny or Jenny, Spike, And just I'll just jump. You also have Mel or Melvin and Melanie and Vorthos.
Yeah,
So if you
sad that they
guys
don't have card versions yet. I mean, I made it a personal goal to have them all.
nice,
Even
nice.
though my Timmy though is the revised artwork.
Sa susunod na unsets, lalabas na rin yung iba.
Yeah, the
Yes,
next one's in space, right? So maybe it'll have a Mel.
yeah, that's
Yep.
true. So
Melvin the Martian.
exactly. um, so I'll read through the different profiles, and we can sort of relate them. You can see how they relate back to the same pillars as I mentioned a while ago. So for Timmy and Tam, oh by the way, so if you can you put, so I was saying share who you which of the profiles you think you are and give an example why. So I am a super Timmy because I do this and that and I always do this, or
Hmm.
funny
Because I
story.
like to play these kinds of decks,
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
there you go.
or I like to do this to my opponents.
All right. So for the ones who haven't heard of this MTG Gamer Profiles, this I think was first done. I forgot what year, but the revisit was 2015. So many years
Medyo,
before that,
medyo matagal na
um,
to eh. I think
Marco
Yeah,
twenty
Rosewater
thousand.
already
it's been
created
in place for quite a while.
the three
Yeah.
gamer pillars, and then 2015 they revisited to add Mel and Vorthos, and also the new one Metagamer. Okay, I like to do this to my opponent. Unglued. Okay, all right. So let's look at Timmy. So, or Tammy. So Tammy wants to experience something. Tammy plays Magic because she enjoys the feeling she gets when she plays. With what that feeling is will vary from Timmy to Tammy or Tammy to Tammy. But what all Tammys have in common is that they enjoy the visceral experience of playing. So it's all about experience for Timmys or for Tammys. Some examples of how they were now able to sort of update and give like uh, core motivators. So they're power gamers. They love playing big creatures, big spells as they smash their way to
Yes.
victory. They
It,
equate
it it
power.
is it is part of their name. They are power gamers.
We are power games. Timmy Power Gamer or Tammy Power Gamer. They equate power with fun. They're also very social. Social gamers that thrive on the social aspect of the game. Their only interest is interacting with their friends. Thus, they tend toward multiplayer variants. So that might also mean that there's a lot of
Yes,
um,
there is a lot of Timmys in Commander because you really need to build up resources and take a while before you bring in those monsters. That they are all about bringing the biggest things out on the table, and it is a hell of an accomplishment for them. So you do need a game that has a little bit of a slower pace, or that you have different variables to balance and juggle, which gives them enough time to really pull off what they want to do.
right. And again, all about experience. So they're diversity gamers. They like experiencing different deck types, different formats. They like to just enjoy something different. So if there's a new format on board, when Brawl came out, like, oh, let's try that. Um, Popper and every other aspect of it. Um, of course, Commander, Draft. So all of these sealed. So as a Tammy player, I would prefer the Tammy player would really enjoy trying out different formats, trying out different deck types, from trying out a fast uh, deck to a more controlled deck. It's all about trying to see what how those feel.
Right.
Then they're also adrenaline gamers, so they enjoy the variance in the game, playing cards and decks that don't have a predictable outcome. So they love cards that work differently each time they play. So coin flipping cards and stuff like that. Yeah, phone call.
Yeah.
Uh, and then griefers enjoy. making so other players not have fun. So, for example, players who love playing stacks, there you go. I think if that's your favorite, uh, if your favorite experience is everybody else is not having fun and you're the only one playing, then there's a really big chance you're a Tammy or a Timmy.
Yeah, yung comment ni Nico, it's about Elder Dragon Highlander is really it's really ito talaga yung pinakang format na perfect for teamies.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You get to play massive cards and um take your time.
Mhm.
There's also a very social aspect to it because you're always going to be playing the table. You know, you're playing another game on top of the table, not just the magic on the board. You're also playing with uh, the people around you,
Oh
and
yes, the politics in multiplayer games is a whole different experience altogether. Like they should bottle that up or convert it into some kind of game.
absolutely yes, yes. So you gotta ask yourself: Are you Timmy or Tammy? And also later on, you might be a hybrid. You could be
Yeah,
a combination of any of these, and
I
that's also
totally
something
agree.
very
Mhm.
I
interesting.
have my moments of being a Timmy power player, especially in like the diversity part here. That I do like to try different formats. Like I'll go to a
Right.
draft, or I'll try the whole mini master that you just take one pack of cards and build a deck out of it. But maybe once, maybe twice, just to try it out. So there's like a
Right.
shade of that of
Mm.
curiosity. But there
Yes.
are other players that really thrive in that.
Yeah, players I think who really preferred that sealed format. It's always about discovery, right?
Yeah.
This is something new. I haven't seen this before, and I'm gonna try to make sense of it now. And those are something very interesting.
My favorite
For
example of this is pre-release. You
right,
get 6 packs and you don't even so okay, you have 6 rares, you don't even know if it's going to end up in the deck. You don't know how the deck's going to function, so it has so much unknown, but you will have like a bomb creature or something so explosive that can win you some games. So it's like a perfect environment for these types of gamers.
right. And we have a first comment who's sharing. So Justin, he's saying he's a Johnny reanimator show and tell player. Nice, nice. And he shared his experience of doing reanimator decks since 2016. Very cool. And he plays Legacy and Modern format. Awesome.
Greetings, fellow Johnny.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I saw the seven
Yeah.
seven. I appreciate also.
Yeah, ako mismo I'm not mainly a Timmy, but I do have my inner Timmy.
Of course, I think we all have that moment where we can, of
Yeah,
course, enjoy
you know
dropping down.
you
A,
open a magic pack and you see a dragon, like I want to play that, and then like later on you just like it's probably never gonna happen.
Yeah,
see,
so you
I
never get
think
past it.
yeah, I think that's where that part of the Timmy Power Gamer kind of like differs on my taste. Like I'm not as I like seeing them work together, but it's not like the first thought. Oh, I want to be able to play that. It's like my brain just goes, how? When will I ever be able to play that? That's my first thought. It's like my first, but when you show me a nice 2/2 with a 2 drop, suddenly, ooh, this is interesting. So very different. Okay.
The only thing that makes me sad here is the very last bullet, because I really enjoy playing stacks. So I am a borderline griefer. So
Yes,
I
you are.
apologize. I
Yeah.
apologize.
Well, I've had my griefer decks din. Yung mga lock decks are,
Right.
griefer decks. And I do enjoy the lock decks every once in a while. But I still don't think that uh, my main motivation is really
Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
grief
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
to
I
You're
think
not
uh,
that's
doing it
power
just
game.
probably
to spite everyone in the table, but if it happens.
Yeah. And ako mismo yung mga lock decks ko, it's not the usual lock decks. It's usually some weird, odd way that I've
So it
locked the game, but you don't know you've already lost.
okay. Let's see if the other archetypes might help describe that more. Okay, so we move on now to Johnny. So as Justin mentioned, he is a Johnny. So Johnny's or Jenny's are combo players. By the way, here's the excerpt from Maro. So Johnny is a creative gamer to whom magic is a form of self-expression. Johnny likes to win, but he wants to win with style. It's very important to Johnny that he wins on his own terms. As such, it's important to Johnny he's using his own deck. So he will never net deck. Um, Playing Magic is an opportunity for Johnny to show off his creativity. So Johnny is a combo player, fascinated by the interaction of cards. They find combinations that no one else has. I've met people like these. They go like, "How did you connect that?" So they want to build decks that will impress all who see them. Yes, yes. Offbeat designers so are very driven by ideas. They are proving their ability to find answers for any challenge. What if the deck only had lands? What if the deck never played permanents? Things like that. So deck artists, they use deck building as a form of self-expressive art. They build decks to do things like embody the elf culture, for example. Uber Johnny thrives on doing the undoable.
Right.
He proves that conventional wisdom says can't be done, then it can be done. To him, no card is too bad to find a use or for like one with nothing. I'm not sure what the reference with one with nothing is.
It's a
One with
bad card.
nothing. Yeah, it's a black. It's a one black to cast that says discard your hand.
Oh,
So
right.
it is
Awesome.
Yep.
borderline. It's borderline useless.
But a
But
Johnny will find
no,
a use
yeah,
for it.
exactly. And I have done it
Mhm.
before.
Awesome. So with Johnny, it's all about I think now with the design of the how things interact, right? How discovering what's there and building around that idea and fitting things together and designing and creating your masterpiece and then showing it off to the world and see how hey, I was able to build this. So it's a lot about building, about creating things. I think that's Johnny or Jenny's motivation. We can check out later, and we're gonna try to see how they fit to the pillars I mentioned a while ago.
Yep.
Right.
One thing I want to bring up here, and it's just really more of a matter. It's a personal thing for me, but you know, a Johnny combo player would be so confident in his build that if you look at the artwork, he's holding a card of himself.
Yes. Absolutely.
That
Yeah, and
there's just so much confidence that like what they are building is the most efficient way of just outright winning.
I think I personally like playing combo decks. When I do build combo decks, though, and this is where sort of the other motivations come in. I would not. I don't prefer combo decks that are sort of like a single out. I prefer like a lot of pieces that do the same thing. Where if I add any of those combinations up, I can build my combo. I prefer that and sort of really just dealing with the tactical opportunity. Can I pull it off now? Okay, then maybe later then. And just keep cycling through that, finding that combination of things that will be able to pull off the what I wanna happen. So I have a little bit of a combo player in me. I always like to see massive damage in figuring out like an attack or something that would be able to directly do achieve something quickly, but it has to take that sort of narrow window opportunity, and then I will able to see with my hand how to pull that off. So that's kind of a little
Yeah.
bit of combo
My mindset
nature.
going into deck building is usually just whenever someone presents a card, just like I said a while ago, you open a pack, you see a dragon, like, oh my god, I want to play this. My mindset is always that, how can I make this go infinite?
So that still relates to your griefer. So
Oh
again,
no,
I'm the
no, no.
only one
See,
playing.
when you go infinite, you flat out win. So
That's true.
everyone pretty much is done. A griefer is really gonna,
Right.
rub
Yep.
salt in the wound and drag it on for as long as
Yep.
possible.
That's true. That's true.
It's yung lock decks nga na ano na you still have a turn but you're not doing anything.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like
Yeah.
I have played
So
against players that have a full lock and no win con in their deck, and you're just like, why are you doing this to people?
I've made a deck like that before. It relied on uh basically decking out the opponent, but I had no
Right.
millstones. So the whole point of the deck was if you're familiar with the card called Arcane Denial.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the deck had Arcane Denials. So the moment I counter your spell and then you draw that card, I've won. You just don't know it yet because I don't have anything to accelerate you decking out except for Arcane Denials. So hindi mo nakikita na yun pala yung win condition ko, yung Arcane Denial. So ito yung ultimate na I guess na parang Johnny move ko na
Right.
it's not a lock but I'll just have answers the whole game and then not die and then all of a sudden you realize you're down to your last card and I have three cards in my deck. So
Yeah,
so yun talaga.
I think that falls right in that offbeat designer thing. That
Oh
how
yeah.
Yeah,
do I
so
Yeah.
win as sneaky as possible?
yung hindi mo alam, 'di ba? I've always wanted to play decks like that, yung and then find cards that people don't really see the potential of, and
Right.
then I'll play it. I remember early days ng Magic when hindi pa uso yung Armageddon.
Yeah.
People weren't using it yet because at that time everybody thought, why would I destroy my own lands? But
Right.
I
Right.
was using them already, I wasn't even playing it main deck. I was playing it from the sideboard para gugulatin ko yung kalaban ko pagkatapos ng game 1. So I always played decks that are like that, a little bit off. Yung hindi yung it will throw something there na, huh? Why is this here? So I guess and I categorize myself under this mostly.
Mhm.
Uh so yun I guess andun na ako sa Uber Johnny. Yung naghahanap ako ng
That's
Ah.
mga
true.
But
Doing
you
the
know what? For
undoable.
Uber Johnny, like when you were reading it out, and the moment I saw one with nothing, I immediately already knew what it goes with. That there's the math involved. There is a card in Magic called Hive Mind. That it's an enchantment. When you play a spell, everyone gets a copy of that spell. So if you play one with nothing and discard your hand, your opponents are also all gonna discard their hands. So you just subject everyone through the same pain.
We all suffer. But I have already arcade denied you. So you will suffer one card more.
Yep. One with nothing is one of the weirdest design cards that it's so cheap, it's an instant, but it just hurts you. So
Right.
it does encourage this kind of mindset for
Yeah.
people that want to try these ideas that what if I just build a deck specifically reflecting back everything that happens to me? No one's going to counter this. Like everyone thinks that I'm being dumb, but I'm actually going to turn it against my opponents later on. Like when they introduced the strategy of winning for having no cards. So there is Laboratory Maniac, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and Thassa's Oracle. These three cards introduce the concept that if you can no longer draw a card, you win the game.
Mhm.
When they introduced these concepts, suddenly self milling and hurting yourself became a viable option.
Mhm.
That it was never something Magic you could do. A long time ago, there was a card called the Mirror Universe that you would replace life totals with your opponent.
Mhm.
Right.
So you would shoot yourself with lightning, hurt yourself just getting out whatever you want, and then just on a turn of a card, just like you're now one life. I'm 19. Let's continue playing. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I also like using my Johnny aspect is really the offbeat, and out of maybe a little bit of out of necessity. I remember I wanted to play a sliver deck, but I couldn't afford dual lands or whatever ouch lands there were available at that time. So I used this card called Harrow, which is an
oh,
instant
eh.
1 green, 2 colorless. Cast it, sacrifice a land, put in 2 basic lands from your deck,
I
and
actually have a Harrow somewhere here.
and I people were not like as soon as I saw that card, like Sliver Queen. That was like my instant, like it went from that to Sliver Queen in one go, and I'm like, yes, I can play that deck now. And people didn't like didn't find it useful at the start, but if of course eventually that instant speed and being able to trim down your deck with less
There,
lands
yes,
is always
that's the most important part. That it's like I don't need the lands. Like you don't need the lands, but you need two less cards out of your library that won't be dead draws. So like,
exactly pulling that in is 2 less out of your remaining 50 cards, so that is always a big plus. All right, so that is our Johnny and Jenny. So now we go to Spike. So
yes,
Spike is a competitive player. So Spike plays to win. Spike enjoys winning. To accomplish this, Spike will play whatever best deck is. So they kind of Spike will copy decks off the internet. Spike will borrow other players' deck. To Spike, the thrill of Magic is the adrenaline rush of competition. Spike enjoys the stimulation of outplaying the opponent and the glory of victory. So for players who are very resident to tournaments, really ramping up the perfect deck, they would be watching. It's still called Grand Prix, right? Or
Magic Fest.
Magic Fest. Oh, it's no longer. So they would be watching the tournaments from overseas because they sometimes it would happen uh, the before the tournament would happen here, and they would already watch the decks that come up and win, and the next day that deck is already built and they're
Yes.
piloting it and they're
Yep.
running
Yep.
it. Yep. So these are our friendly spikes. So
I have admittedly been a spike at one point when I got into I play competitive EDH, so I have net decked, and it is possible to like construct something within a week, and then some players are willing to lend you cards just so that,
right,
or even I don't encourage really using proxies, but if you just want to see if it will run.
right.
Running it. Yep.
So Spike, innovators, they pride themselves on their ability to judge new cards. Their goal is to find the next broken thing. Their dream is to spawn the next dominant deck. So they will take whatever this good design is out there. They're gonna add their flavor to it and win tournaments with it. They're also tuners, so kind of like the Tokyo Drift tuners. They would fine tune the decks. They would look at the counts. They would check the statistics. What is the probability of me drawing this card? Do I want it at a lower probability? How do I push it down, or how do I bring it
Yep.
up so that it'll be in my opening hand?
These
So
are these are players that are known for aggressive mulligans and also like really trying to understand the mana curve.
right, and I have I have teammates. So Johnny was another teammate of mine. This immediately also reminded another teammate of mine when I was playing Magic. I remember we were about to enter the tournament. It was kind of like my first or second time entering the tournament, and he comes in on game night, hands out a sheet, like, okay, start memorizing. So if I
This
draw
is the deck
this
you're playing.
as part of my draft, what is Which one? Sort the cards in order. Like, what do you mean? Which one is better? This one or that one? I'm like, depends. No, but it's in the draft. And so we had exams, literal exams, and he had a matrix of like the sorting order. So by the time we were done, really, and they even would give me like sample packs, like done in like a random, and I passed that on, and they check if I was able to pass on the cards in the correct sort order. At
Wow.
crazy. So yeah, I've met some spikes. So they're analysts. They plan on winning, by not by having the best deck in the vacuum, but having the best deck that is suited for the environment. So
Yep.
they run the meta. They figure that out.
I've known my
Not
fair share of spikes that for a while I did pilot legacy decks for them. And yeah, like when I didn't really play the format, but when they handed me a deck, they explained to me what were the top metas in their format and even like directed me to MTG top 8, which all
right.
this posts the top lists. So like you might go up against Death and Taxes, you might go up against this deck, this deck. Like you have to be prepared. Like I don't even know what these are.
Yeah, it is quite overwhelming, but they have studied Magic to the core, especially the meta that they're in. So they're nuts and bolts. They focus their energy in perfecting their own gameplay. They try to understand their own internal flaws and work to improve them. They tend to spend more time on limited formats because it is really about that information, not just the sort of the wealth of cards that you were able to accumulate. It's really a test of knowledge of the current format that you are playing in. So spikes are really players that study and go deep inside the game. All right. So,
Oh, and shout out to the art here. I actually used to own that shirt.
oh, cool.
It's nope, but it has the blue mana symbol.
Ah, nice. Nico says he is a Johnny Melvin meta player
Wow.
because creativity with restrictions is what drives me in MTG. Okay, what I enjoy is deck building on a budget with restriction, no money to spend. I'm not the typical Johnny because I don't go with a big combo, and he's more focused on game design. And his current play group, as he mentioned last week, is more focused on proper
Yeah.
format.
Our resident
So
popper expert.
I also, well, it's always really fun to beat your opponent that has like a full on proper, very expensive deck, and then you beat them with a deck that is worth less than the sleeves they're in. So that's like
And you know how brutal that is in our gaming environment. I've been in a tournament that when I won, that my opponent's friends from behind him is like, "Oh, ano nagawa ng full set ng fetch land mo? Ano nagawa?"
yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right. So let's review. So we have action social, destruction competition, excitement, and community, mastery, which is challenge, strategy, and competition, completion and power, and then fantasy. For immersion and creativity, we have fantasy, story design, and discovery. So I'm thinking this is how they're best related. So of course, for action and social, very easy to define. That's gonna be Timmy Power Gamer already.
Yes,
That's
big and
all of
stumpy.
right. Bring in the big guns. Let's play the competition, the community around it. It's very much a Tammy or Timmy motivation. Definitely for that mastery component, that knowing how all things in this, just seeing how all things flesh out. That's definitely a spike, right? That's definitely, I want to be able to be the greatest this design. I want to be able to master everything, and so definitely this is a spike cluster. And of course, for creativity and immersion and trying out things and building decks that are just because of the theme, building decks just because, oh, I want to be able to win against you with one more card than you. That is definitely about creativity, and that's our Johnny lackluster. So the same motivations still are do correlate back to the same, even if they were not. We were discussing this before we started the show, that it's interesting because the questions that were asked from the Quantric Foundry surveys are not the same questions that they would ask players in Magic, because they are
Right.
totally from different gaming circles, and the dimensions would not be the same. Even the example of games would not be the same. However, the reason why we play is, I think, a human um, motivation. It's you're after competition, you're after challenge, you're after fantasy, and those don't have a specific game that is connected to them. It's the game evokes that motivation or satisfies that motivation, and because of that, you are interested in that. And with Magic having being so diverse in what it can do, what it can provide from the different formats, from the different archetypes, from the different game designs, and the art and the story and the strategy and the competition and the casual gaming. So everybody has a place in Magic. That is what's really, really powerful and interesting about the Magic world. Uh, Everybody kind of really has a space. So it doesn't mean that it's all about competition. That's not necessarily how Magic works. Even more so nowadays, where you really have formats, especially the secret lair stuff, the very zoomed in other worlds. I find those very interesting. I'm a partly Johnny slash Timmy ish guy, so I like the different worlds and the different places that I can explore, and of course the combos around those things. So, do you guys agree and see the relationships the same way?
Yeah. I think talagang gano'n naman, eh. And, yung human motivations are always, not just in gaming. I think, medyo universal siya, eh. In
Mm,
almost everything we do, our motivations are either social or what, it's always emotional.
right.
It's something we need to fulfill some emotional need. Uh, and these things are universal. So it's not just in between games. And
Hmm.
it may be maski yung sa career mo or kanina nga pinag-usapan natin yung investment, eh pasok din yun sa completion, eh, di ba?
Yeah.
Correct.
So, or collecting, di ba? So even if it's not gaming related, I think a lot of the motivations and personality types na makikita mo rito can also apply into other things. And siguro maski pwede tayong maglaro, eh. Ilagay natin yung mga kandidato natin ngayon sa for president as Timmy, Spike, or Johnny, eh. 'Di ba? Baka
That's
pwede
true.
rin.
That's true. We can
So,
probably map them out.
yeah, we can probably map them out. Sino ba yung all about power? Sino ba diyan yung all about community? Sino ba yung trip-trip lang dahil exciting, 'di ba? May gano'n, eh. Or
Or
yung
living in a
only
fantasy.
living in a fantasy. Magaling gumawa ng storya, 'di ba? Mga gano'n.
Right. Right. Very
So
creative.
I think it's very universal. And aside from and very few people are actually one-dimensional. So even
Absolutely.
if you say na, oh, I'm a Johnny player, that doesn't mean you don't have a Timmy side or a
Right.
Spike side,
Correct.
'di
Hmm.
ba? Everybody, I think what happens is everybody has the same, yung lahat ng 'yan, we all have that, but to varying degrees.
Right.
Yes, agreed.
I-
That's why,
Is
like,
is
Yes.
how I
I
look
would
at
I
it.
would I would have myself as a Johnny base, but I've dabbled in doing Timmy things and also Spike things.
Right. Right.
Ano yung griefing?
Yeah, that's why, like, really, I mean, even the community, that, that's why the
Yeah.
fact that this show exists is that
Correct.
I really enjoy I love the MTG community, with all of its flaws and also its amazing accomplishments. Like, I've met people that I wouldn't have ever met in any other circumstance, and have actually been great friends. So that's the community side. So there's a little bit of Timmy in me too.
Mhm.
Right.
But at the same time, I can also talk about stacks and how to make every game into a grind it into a complete standstill and have people hate you out of a table. So
Mm.
All right.
Marami talagang overlaps eh. And I don't see, with all the polarization that we're seeing, I think a lot of people have to realize that they do have you know, all of these aspects within them, just to
yeah, here,
varying
here.
degrees.
Yep, yep.
And if you understand that, you'll understand the other type of player, 'di ba? Uh, so you just have to tap that your inner Timmy to understand the Timmy na naiinis ka. Bakit? Why are you playing this super inefficient creature? 'Di ba? Kung ikaw yung Spike, pagagalitan mo yung si Timmy. Pero, if you can understand his motivations, and then you can probably understand him better, and then mas maayos yung lalo na kung teammate mo yun, di ba?
Yeah.
I'm sure si Ron, yun ang kina-explain niya kanina eh. Yung spike nila paminsan parang
Talaga, Matrix eh.
you
Yep.
expect me to do this?
Actually, yeah, my solution to this is actually I currently run 3 commander decks, and one would be competitive, one would be
Mhm.
just like my personal like combo building that is just my own like list and forcing something that shouldn't happen. And then the last
Mhm.
one is just big stumpy smash people's face. Like so
Yeah.
when you're in certain tables and they're like, no, we don't want someone who wins on turn two. Like, okay, well, I have a solution. I will switch.
Okay. So Nico made a comment here. Immersion strikes me odd under Johnny. Baka that's why they created Vorthos. And there's some truth to this. I think Johnny shares the mastery and achievement, but secondary on creativity. Actually, Johnny is really more on the creative side. So combo, the offbeat
Mhm.
design, they're deck artists. So their self-expression is about their design. The Vortos moved the polarity a little bit more into the theme, while Johnny was more focused on the how the deck works. But
Right.
it's still driving under that creativity, just in different polarities. So ang master player talaga natin, definitely si Spike. Siya talaga yung will analyze the would have a whole list, the inventory of every card of the format that they are competing in, and will have the probabilities down to the core. That's our friendly Spike, and it's always a good thing if you have that in your team, because at least they will do the assignment for you. As a Johnny player, I am just happy. Okay, is that's what you think is the best one? Sige, I will try to build around it or build a deck around it. Um, that's how you sort of work with the strengths of your team. So that's for me how I see it. Aaron said, which does the
Which
stacks
does
go?
stacks go? Yeah,
So,
Griefer, which is
so
the
Griefer, which is a
Timmy.
Timmy thing. Ironically, diba, parang Timmy wants that excitement, but also he's like enjoying the fun. Like, you guys are not doing anything. That's also a very Tammy or
Yeah,
Timmy
decide
thing.
like you won't let me play my biggest card. Fine, no one plays any cards.
Well, Sir Freddy though, throwing in the wisdom of crossing election party lines.
Yeah, well, more than just because it's election season, but I think it applies to a lot of things. We have to understand that you know we're not one-dimensional creatures. We do have yung human motivations are very
It's
very
intrinsic. That's
complicated.
the yeah, and it's
Yep.
ingrained to us, but it's never one dimension.
Yeah,
There's so
it's not
many
one
aspects.
dimensional. And even if it's not a major or a main motivator for you, it might be for another person. But knowing that there's that tiny part of you that is also motivated in that same way, if you can tap into that, you can understand other people better.
Right.
Yep.
And this yun nga sinasabi ko, this doesn't just apply to gaming. 'Di ba? Yung spike ninyo sa team ninyo, kung nagkakaproblema kayo with him, then probably you have to he has to tap into his inner Timmy or his Johnny para mas maging harmonious yung team ninyo, 'di
Yeah.
ba? Para
Yes.
mabawasan
Yes.
ng drama.
Yep, yep. And again, same way. Like when in our, like, we followed. Like, oh, that's what you enjoy, and we'll do it. But at the same time, when it comes tournament time, we don't necessarily follow everything, because to to us, we're still that combo player. Like, oh, this is interesting. I'm gonna try
Mm.
this, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's where that balancing thing with your teammates work.
Right.
Chum shares.
Hey, Chum, good evening. Yes, our regular viewer.
I remember playing with my first tournament at Ram Shop in BF back in the day. I ran a mono black deck that went undefeated, won several packs. And I remember becoming a spike after that day. Loved the competition, strategy, and the grind, and playing as efficient as possible. I brought the same deck back the next week and got smashed because everyone came prepared with an anti-black sideboard. It was a humbling experience, but it also started a fire in me to improve my game and adapt. And now that, yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's that, I think that's also a big part of these gamer profiles. You also evolve. It doesn't mean that you
Mhm.
started here and that's it.
Yeah.
I probably started as a Timmy
Same.
when I started, right? And then eventually got into other things, and age is also a big factor on how our motivations changed.
Mhm.
And because of this, our preferred
Yep.
formats and games are also changing.
Yeah, like I'll describe a line of cards that I think will explain everything perfectly. Shivan Dragon. Like, yeah, I'm gonna smash face and set things on fire. Force of Nature, 8/8 trample, like,
Woo.
two hit kill. Then all of a sudden, just like, it's too expensive. I'll never get them down at the table.
Yeah,
Then you start
yeah,
evolving.
absolutely, absolutely. I remember my first few designs. It was like, yeah, the crawworm sucks.
One of my main directions when I started playing Magic was the Thicket Basilisk that
Mm,
would kill
yeah,
everything it touched and lure.
right. Yeah,
So
yeah,
the
I
whole
remember.
point was just to wipe out your opponent's board by forcing them to block a
Like, how do
basilisk.
you win?
It's
I
like,
don't know.
how do you win with other stuff? Like,
Whatever is remaining. Okay.
May
So,
power naman yung Basilisk eh. So,
two
you
four.
chip away.
Yeah.
yeah, I remember when you guys mentioned Griefer a while ago. What I remember was my what was that card where it brought
The harpy
all
thing,
of
your
no, no, no.
Aluran
It would
Ano ba yun?
bring back all the
Yeah.
permanents to your hand.
upheaval.
Yep.
Upheaval. There you
Upheaval.
go. So
Yeah.
I didn't prefer upheaval Psychotog. I am
Yeah.
the shadow infiltrator upheaval guy. Where that's
Mm.
it. What's your you have no creatures in that deck? Yeah, just the four shadow infiltrators. And the rest are just the blue and black stuff to kill whatever's there, and upheaval. Yeah, attack, draw. Yay, 19 to go. Attack, draw. That's it. So yeah, that part is a little bit of a spike in me. Harold said, I think Javi pointed out something that these three don't point out is nostalgia, playing the game because you reminded of
More
your
innocent time. Yeah.
reminded of those innocent times, especially those three categories were created 20 years ago. Magic is almost 30 years now. That is true.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's
Yeah.
why there's a lot of dimensions underneath. When
Mm-mm.
you look at it, it's not simply just the Timmy and it's how it's defined. When you look at, that's why I went to that exercise. Can I relate this to the Quantic Foundry 12 motivators and see if those pan out? And turns
Mm.
out that there are relationships to it. There are still connections, and that's why certain aspects of the game still work with you,
Yeah.
just given the correct format.
If you're trying to look at it literally, like here, looking at where you place Johnny, fantasy and story, may not necessarily be something that is specific to the type of a combo player, but
Mhm.
if you read the sentence written below, that they are curious and always testing the boundaries of the game. That is what a Johnny combo player is. So
Yes.
that the motivators on the top may not, you don't have to take them black and white. That you can be
Right.
Mhm.
flexible with this.
And
Yeah.
that's what um Nico mentioned. That's why 2015 there was some updates.
Yep.
I'll jump to the Vorthos update. So Vorthos was introduced as a new motivator. So he's the gamer. He appreciates the top-down renaissance and the in-game flavor. He's the artist, so appreciates all the visual aspects of Magic. This is probably the player that will buy the art books of Magic. He's
Yeah.
a writer who probably collects the books, the oracle who appreciates how big the world is and can even probably even be interested in cosplay. So again, this is realizing that Magic is not just simply the players that are competing in the tournaments. They're also the players that are playing casual Magic. They're also the players that are doing cosplay, and they realize that it's now a larger world, and they want to be able to also um, highlight the people that enjoy Magic in a different way. And of course, as we mentioned a while ago, certain aspects on the fantasy and the story component for Johnny might be more Vorthos because of this. So he's the dreamer, so appreciates anything contributing to the lore of Magic. So probably Vorthos player is probably
But
motivated and
they do
excited.
they do also have an aspect to them that is not necessarily like art or flavor driven, but these are the kind of guys that I only play white bordered cards, or that you only
Sure.
play the original art, and like even like
Sure.
without the oracle text or revision, it's just like that card is wrong, but it's the original.
Sure. Sure. So
Yeah. Actually,
Har-
Vorthos is Tolarian Academy Magic.
Yeah, well, yeah, but you know what? The professor is an avid merfolk builder, so he does also have a bit of Johnny in him.
yeah, 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 yeah. So Vorthos, I think, really appreciates the flavor. And again, you could be a Johnny Vorthos or a Timmy Vorthos in any of these sort of advanced combination because again, humans are not fit into definite boxes. We just have clusters, but again, just like how we showed a while ago, those clusters are moving and they're not necessarily set on stone.
These are the guys that like even study the color pie, so to speak, and like what the colors are supposed to represent. And actually, if you look at the very last sentence that's written here, they appreciate cards that are designed with consistency in their name and color.
Yes.
These are the kinds of people that brought retro artifacts back, that they made them brown again, that they were
Yeah.
willing to pay money just so that it would just bring back the classic.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And I think these are the people who like that's not a green card. That's not supposed to be green.
Yeah,
They would really
the
point out.
color pie dictates,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes. Yes. So they're really fans of the lore. Going back a little bit, so we have Melvin or Melanie. So Mel is the mechanic player, so someone who's focused on the craft of design and development. So Mel is characterized for appreciating the cards with delicate and interesting interactions as well as strong mechanics. Mel appreciates that there are many different elements to have come together to a magic cards function structurally, from the color pipe, the mana, to the system rules, and templating the mechanical needs of the set. So Mel is an interesting psychographic profile because these are players who are focused on appreciating the design of Magic. They examine the cards as they are released and focus on why in the part of the card. They may focus on why a card was given a color and why it is a certain creature type.
There are so many Melvins, but coming in, I've never really heard about this type until we had this conversation earlier today. Just talking about the color pie, it really felt like a Vortos thing, but now apparently it falls under Mel.
Yeah.
And then even down to one particular portion here that you mentioned, that it's the appreciation of design of Magic. Every time they go into spoiler season, there's hundreds of videos on YouTube of people discussing the new mechanics.
Right.
There are so many mells. There are people who are really gonna go down into just everything, like why cards cost a certain way, or that last episode we talked about the Stranger Things secret layer and
Mm-hmm,
how they
mm-hmm.
used how they changed partner into friends forever. They're mechanically just so that those two sets of cards would not interact with each other. That is
Yeah.
such a mel discussion.
And as a designer, like what Sir Freddy said, most designers would have a little bit of a mel in them. I when I see card mechanics, I would often be able to sort of appreciate why the mechanic was done a certain way, especially if it's a new mechanic coming in. It's like, oh, I know what you're
Mhm.
trying to solve. Like I see what you're trying to give players the ability for. Like, and um why scry works the same way, how decay, and I'm not entirely sure if that was the term for it, but something like that, where
Well,
you
Decade is a new ability. You
Yeah.
might be thinking of Surveil, the one that
know,
goes to the graveyard instead of
where
Scry.
when you take damage, you take it as -1/-1 counters.
Infect.
Infect. Okay. All right. There you go. So, for example, those things where you're going like, how do I make permanent damage in Magic? Because damage in Magic is not permanent.
Oh,
It
you know what? I have
goes
to
away.
correct myself. I'm so sorry. Infect is poison counters, but damage is -1/-1 is Wither.
Wither. There you go. There. Thank you. So, Wither, which was interesting because I personally was designing something for like a play around Dota Magic, and I didn't. I worded a mechanic, which I call decay. That's why I still refer to Wither as decay, because I refer to it as decay. I wanted to implement a tower. The tower needed permanent damage, and I had to word my mechanic so that when it receives damage, it will be a permanent damage. And those are things where, when you see as a designer, you're looking at the card and the mechanic, going, I see what you're trying to do. I know where you're coming from, and that's also something very interesting for me, uh, which is not necessarily playing the game, but seeing around it. That's why I guess these added motivators are not necessarily motivations of playing the game itself, but I think it's a big motivator for staying in it, right?
Mhm.
Where you are
Yes.
able to discover more and enjoy more, because these motivations, which make you enjoy the game and the layers of it, it keeps you in it.
Mhm.
And then there's the meta gamers, which I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it's probably the investors. The meta gamers and the investors are playing a different game,
No, well,
especially the investors.
metagaming is really specifically built as a counter. It's just like, oh, everyone's playing elf, fine. Like, a very good example of this is a particular year in Magic that Affinity was introduced. This is from the Mirrodin block. When they got up to the Grand Prix, the winner was probably one of the youngest Magic champions ever that created a green white deck that was just anti Affinity. And it ended up becoming one of those gold border collector decks that it was really just designed to go against 90% of what players were playing at that time. So that is a kind of strategy that this is more leaning towards a competitive side because your intent
Mhm.
is to go against the grain and what everyone else is playing. But at the same time, this also has those kinds of players that just keep spinning wheels but get nowhere.
So I'm just getting the names of the people that have commented,
Right.
and I'm gonna put them up in a raffle.
I liked Justin's story, the show and tell story. Chum's mono black story was very interesting. Nick, well, Nick put himself in like three different types here. So
That's
Well,
true.
you
Like,
know, as I was saying, di ba? Nobody, we can't just pigeonhole ourselves.
right,
Like,
right.
yes.
I would say I'm primarily a Johnny player, but I do enjoy the competition. So, and I also like to, I do have an inner Timmy. So, yung sinabi ni Nico is very apt na slash ganyan. Primarily this. And I think everyone's a little bit like that. Everybody's like that. You do have everyone has an inner Timmy, even if you're a spike, 'di ba? So I agree with Nico's yung pagkakasabi niya na tatlong craft category siya. So he's not cis playered. Tama ba?
Mm.
I don't know if
Well,
I'm using the term right.
I'm fine. I am fine with accepting that I am a combo player, but I do have shades of the other
Yeah.
types.
I think I would primarily be like a Johnny, a Mel Johnny type player. I would really see the small bits of the combo and then appreciate like how they all interacted and really enjoy that. Thank you for giving me this avenue to experience, because you have, you have your basic attacks, you have all of those, but just seeing how colors can interact and how that can contribute to another thing you want to achieve. So those are something that always makes me enjoy Magic a bit more.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, my very favorite 2/2 card is Wild Mongrel, just because of like, wow, it's such a simple mechanic. Discard a card, +1/+1. Like, but yet it brought in so many other things. It's like that
It can
is,
fuel the
and it's a
grave.
common. It's a common. It's a. It
Hey,
was
oh, we
perfect.
have one more entry here from Harold. Perfect. Yeah, he shared a lot of thoughts, but he did not specify his type. So he considers himself a metagamer.
So
Let's
Harold
see
is a
who.
metagamer. The purpose is to go deeper than the first line of thought. Ask what is the best deck and think of how to beat that deck. I think that's the most competitive way of playing. Right, right. So you're, and with metagamers, it's very interesting because like what Harold said, you have to
Yes.
read the board. You have to
Yeah.
see what's running, what's popular in the tournaments, and then come in. And you can't really change last minute, because when you're coming into a tournament, you got to be able to practice and
Mhm.
run those decks and test those decks and tweak those decks before the tournament comes in. And that meant that you already had a study of like what is the meta, what's going
Hmm.
on, what's most popular, and so forth, and start building a design and secretly like, okay, guys, this is our secret weapon.
It kind
And
of sounds like a spike, though.
Yung
that's true. That's
metagaming
why,
naman is very very spiky.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and
it,
I
it
think
is.
yung
It
yung
was
yung
mentioned in his profile actually, the
mhm.
metagaming first like.
And yung I think some people who metagame actually when they go to a tournament, they bring multiple decks and
Yes,
then
yes.
scout around a little bit
Oh,
and see
really?
what
Wow.
people are playing. And then they'll register the deck that they think is the best for what they see before, just a few minutes before the ano. So sila yung mga last magsubmit ng deck list dahil gumagawa pa ng adjustments, even just a sideboard lang.
All right. Harold Frexing, he mentions he's 97 Hong Kong Open and 98 top 4 nationals. Nice.
Nice.
Yep, magaling na player yan si Harold.
Let's
Yum.
see, we have other people who commented on today's episode. We have Aaron, we have Chino.
Yeah. So, guys,
Last chance,
last
meron pa
last
bang last
minute,
chance or ano?
humabol pa si Marks.
Yeah.
Sige.
Hi,
Hey.
Marks.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Aaron, where would a player that targets to create decks for guilds and shards?
If
Oh well,
I
you're
yeah, that would be a
Yun is a
Johnny.
story.
Yeah. So
Yes,
if it's
Johnny Vorthos
yeah,
type, where
Yeah.
as a Johnny you're building a certain deck type, and as a Vorthos you're trying to fit it because of this is how the guild works. This is
right. In the
you
example
don't
for
feel like
Johnny
this is you.
earlier, it was mentioned to build like the best elf deck ever. So that's the perfect example. Like, I want to make the best Boros red white deck. Like, yep, you are a Johnny. You are a deck designer.
All right, cool. Marx mentioned the thing with the Johnny,
Mhm.
Spike, Timmy categories is that they mix
Yep.
motivation with methodologies. Kaya medyo vague siya. Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
combo
it is.
That's
It
true.
is.
utilizations.
It is intentionally ambiguous because it's the intention is not to box you in into one
Yes,
type. It's just to help you
definitely.
understand
Hmm.
the gamer motivations.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's not a, again, like just like how we depicted the clustering. It's not
Hmm.
about you fitting in a box. It's where
Yes.
you are attracted more. Um,
Hmm.
Being a certain player, you know that you would sit somewhere in between for me, somewhere in between a Vorthos and Johnny, and maybe a little bit of Timmy there, just because I can
Yep.
uh, be able to
Yeah.
pull this off.
Yeah.
Let me just
So
discuss this a little bit more. The main reason the design team conceptualized Johnny, Timmy, and Spike was because it was part of their design process.
mhm.
And siguro this is a good advice for designers as well. Is they tried to identify who they're making the cards for, and they tried to make sure that every set has cards for Johnny, Timmy, and Spike.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
that's a big part of the success of Magic the Gathering is because they try to catch as many people dun sa net na when they cast the net for every set, they try to catch as many people as possible. And not all games, you can't do this with all games kasi medyo unique yung Magic the Gathering is when they make sets, they make multiple cards for the set and there's not one specific theme or ano that they have to stick to. They can switch planes nga, di ba? Sinabi natin, they can even do an unglued set just for the Timmy. Uh,
Right.
so if you're a designer and you're designing a specific game, you have to identify your target audience, and it doesn't necessarily mean that this theoretical character is an actual person, or when I say Javi is a Johnny, 'di ba? Na Johnny lang siya, wala na siya. That's his old, that's his one-dimensional character. It's not to categorize people. It's more, this is mainly for the designers to have a concept of who they're designing the games for. So this isn't something that we should, label people na ikaw Johnny ka kasi, ikaw kasi Spike ka kasi kaya
Mm.
Yeah.
hindi ka
It's not
masaya
it's not for
kalaro.
labeling.
Diba? It's not for
Yeah.
labeling people. You have to understand. This is more of a design process. Uh, this is more part of their design process and not really to label people na hihiwalay natin yung ikaw kulay green ka, ikaw kulay red ka. 'Di ba? It's not that. So I'm just making this to clarify this, ha.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Sige, sige.
I totally agree. I mean, translating it to Commander, multiplayer format, so you have a lot of people, to take into consideration when you start a game, and that's why Commander has Rule Zero. That, what kind of gaming experience are we looking for? When you have, let's say, a combo player, you have a Johnny on the table, you have a Timmy, everyone kind of has to kind of come to a consensus so that you're all having the best possible gaming experience. So this is supposed to kind of help you also understand what other players might be motivated by. So, like, it's a little rude to maybe question someone that, why aren't you running this card? Why are you playing that super
Yep.
inefficient elf? Like, because he wants to build an elf deck. So it's just more of a way of getting people to understand why they're into the game and what they're looking to get out of the game.
And
So just
I
like
think
what Sir Freddy said, that the cards are being designed to certain player types. That's right. Like, they want people to experience Magic a particular way.
and they
Mhm.
I guess of course Magic has realized how wide Magic can be, that everybody has their space in it. They even have work with tabletop RPG, and you now have RPG worlds in D&D that coincide with Magic, and of course vice versa. So that's also a big part of it. Um, so I think that's the being able to understand why people like to play Magic gives you that opportunity to build more things that would satisfy them, that would make them enjoy the game more and give them a space. And I think that's a great thing. And as they expand an understanding about this more, then the more they would be able to address all of the different aspects of Magic. Halda's question before we roll. Question: what do you think of Magic stance on competitive play to all three and moving forward? Uh, Me personally, I think Magic, like what I mentioned, has realized there's different aspects about the game that people enjoy, and it comes from very. They still have. You can think of it as um, a wide population likes competitive Dota or excuse me. You have your um, competitive sports, and there's a certain target audience for it, but they also know that there's also a wider audience that are casual Magic players. And I think realizing this, that's why they have the secret layers, that all of the different formats. They understand that there's so many ways to enjoy Magic. It's not just only on the competition, because a competition is a motivator, it's a relevant motivator, it's a big part of it. But at the same time, there are players who are also into a different aspect, and they want to be able to serve those too.
Right. So my answer here is pretty simple. Um, Magic has always been designing cards that are almost like free spells. So you'll always get your big monster or bomb spell out. And then they're always making these cards that just suddenly fit into an existing combo and make it more efficient. Or now, let's say, even with the online MTG Arena and even like support for Commander, LGS, that there still is a lot of competitive play. So they are really still, designing and putting out material for these three types, and it's not going to go away.
Mhm.
All
Uh,
right.
I'm not even particularly sure what the question is, because Wizard stance on competitive play constantly shifts, and they also try to gauge the, what do you call this, the temperature of the community, and the temperature of the community constantly changes as well.
Right.
And we've seen the community develop, and it's a 30-year-old game. So lalo na ngayon that the 30 years na yung game, marami ka ng age groups na kasali sa community ng Magic, from Gen Xers to Gen Y, millennials, uh, and these people are in different stages of their lives, and they will have different motivations.
Right.
Uh, so some people who may have been very competitive before will no longer be able to be competitive now, but there's going to be people who are competitive ngayon, 'di ba? And then there's people na, and I think Watsi is also realizing that there's uh and they're designing more sets for the casual players. I think yung unang experiment nila was yung the unsets, which was
Mm,
ano, and then they're making more of that. And
right.
yung mga secret layers nga natin na they're not they're not ever going to be tournament legal, uh for, let's say, you're not gonna win the world championships with the secret layer cards, 'di
Right.
ba? But they're designed for a specific audience, yung mga ano, like yung mga crossover na nga na mga sets, like crossover with the different licenses.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's,
The recent one is Stranger Things.
yeah, it's catered to a different kind of audience, and it's not all the products that they're coming out with is something that you have to buy.
Right.
Mm.
You
No
enjoy
one asked
magic.
for Secret Lair Fortnite.
You enjoy magic the way you want to enjoy it. Yun na yun. So,
maybe
but
maybe
competitive play will always be there.
oh yeah,
I'm a big
it's
believer
a
in
big core.
competitive play. I'm a competitive player as well. Of course, I can't join tournaments, or at least the big ones.
Right.
No, but you know what? Even if you're not necessarily playing, the tournament scene is the community scene. That
Yes.
is
Yeah.
people really going out of their way to go play Magic with people and also test their
Mhm.
skills. So, they may have their own personal motivation, but at the end of it, the product or the end result is a community is built.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
And
even on just the volunteers in the
mhm.
community, people who are not necessarily playing, but they would be helping out,
Yeah.
organizing, judging, and all of those. Those
Yes.
are, an extension of how you enjoy Magic. You're now enjoying
Yes.
the community itself. So there's so many aspects.
Yep.
Alrighty, we are about to go 2 hours on an impromptu topic. So
Fine.
let
Spin
us
the wheel.
let
Spin the
us
wheel.
roll, spin the wheel, and find the players who will be winning. Sir Freddy, what are they going to be winning?
Uh, a booster pack of draft booster ng Adventures in the Forgotten Realms.
Woo,
Yeah.
adventure AFR. Okay, so the first
If
winner.
you
So
win, just message the variable play, and then they'll coordinate where you can pick it up. I don't think it's worth it to ship it
yeah,
because it's one booster pack, diba?
yes. So just note that you would have to pick it up in a nearby neutral grounds store. Is that how will it work,
Yeah,
Sir Freddy?
or nearby LGS kung saan ka kung walang neutral grounds na malapit.
Okay. All right. Cool. So, uh, part of the network, ni Sir Freddy, we will coordinate and help you guys get connected for the winners.
Right, right.
We will be drawing three, uh, and then the one is the one we vote as together, right?
Okay, sige.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. So first one that will win is grabe si Thomas.
Wow. Hey,
Naka,
hey.
naka, nakakuha pa. Thomas Regala. Thank you. Please
Wow.
reach
So
out.
okay,
Yan,
who brought it?
nakahugot ka ng
Who
premyo si
brought him?
Tomas.
Who brought him in again to comment?
Um, I
I
think
think
it was
William brought him in, tagged
William,
him.
like started tagging people. Thank you, William. All right, so Thomas, you are our first winner. Just reach out, and we will get you connected with your AFR booster pack. All right, second one is Uy,
No,
Milo.
sorry, chum.
Milo!
So close, buddy.
Grabe.
Paano ko
So,
padadala kay Milo to?
meron bang store
Milo
sa
sin
ano?
Iloilo.
Oo nga, may store naman yata sir
Okay,
sa
sige, yeah.
Iloilo.
Okay.
Okay, so Milo, yeah,
Congratulations,
know how
man.
to reach out. And the last one uh, for the raffle, and then we will pick our favorite.
Oh my god.
Marks!
Marks.
With the last minute comment. You want a
The
pack.
last
Good
minute
job.
comment. Good job. All right. Cool. Okay, so
Mm.
which among these is our um, favorites?
Ano, let's discuss this offline na lang muna and then announce it.
Okay,
I think,
That's perfectly fine. So
yeah,
yeah, using the comments, we'll be able to track down our winner.
yes. Okay. So how do we paki-reroll daw sabi ni Marks. Oh, Marks is passing on his prize. Okay. All right.
How
Uh,
how very brave of you, sir. Thank you.
thank you, Marks. Oh,
All
medyo
right.
busy si Marks ngayon. So,
What?
okay. We are re-rolling. And the random winner. There you go,
Chino.
All
Chino.
right,
Okay.
Chino. Congratulations. You have
Thank
won a pack donated by
thank you
Marks.
din, Harold. Thank you. You enjoyed the show for tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
Very informative daw, sabi ni Harold. Okay. So we pick offline and we will just message them. Is that
Yes,
how we
we'll
it will
just
work?
yeah, announce nyo na lang siguro sa page or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do
They
that.
don't
All right.
need to hear our deliberations.
Sure. Sure. Noted. Noted. Okay. So, Javi, this is your show. Take it
I
away.
know, but you know what? Thank you so much for coming up with the topic for tonight. And like I mentioned last episode, I wasn't really sure if I was going to be able to run tonight's SNM, but I'm very happy to have been part of this episode. Thank you, Sir Freddy, for joining us.
My
And
pleasure.
Ron, thank you for taking the helm. And for everyone that joined us through the episode, thank you for the feedback and comments. We're really happy that we were able to provide you some more information about this game that we really love playing. And to answer Harold's top question there below, next week we are actually doing a sponsored box opening from Wizards of the Coast, where we will be opening a set booster box from
Nuts.
the
Wow,
Innistrad
sponsored na si
Midnight Hunt
Javi.
set. Yes, I know it happened. Yes.
Sponsored si Javi.
Wow, influencer.
Influencer.
And you know what? I have you guys to thank for that, and especially everyone that was watching. So this isn't
Yes,
anything that I did
absolutely.
on my own. Instead, it's just that there's so much support from this community, and people making it through a near 2 hour episode just goes to show how much they
Yeah.
love this game and how much everyone just loves talking about Magic.
Yeah,
And
we could
with that,
spend hours on this.
yeah, I know. Too much time. But that's right.
Yes.
It's a Sunday night. People got work tomorrow. So, you know what? Thank you everyone for joining us in this episode. We will be back to our, usual Sunday night magic. Maybe I'll have a guest join me next week, or it might just be me cracking packs. Stay tuned. Again, like, share, subscribe, do all the social media stuff. And, keep safe, keep gaming.
Thank you, everyone. Bye
Okay, good night.
bye.